Sirens blare between tall city buildings under a bright sky. Police cars with flashing lights line the street in front of a tall building as an explosion erupts from its midsection. A police officer in full tactical gear stands between two riot shields, holding a megaphone and shouting for the suspects to drop their weapons and release the hostages. Engine holds a terrified young man at gunpoint, pulling him forward while shouting for him to shut up. A masked man holds a gun to a hostage's head, threatening to shoot if anyone takes another step as numerous cloaked figures surround them in the dimly lit, chaotic room. Rachel curses out loud in frustration, searching for her target and damning the heroes, before she suddenly flinches and gasps. One masked guard in tactical gear asks his partner what is wrong, and the second guard tells him to look behind him. Jade stands confidently in a cream suit with a prominent gold chain and an identifiable belt buckle, his expression serious and his hair in braids. Two figures in tactical gear stand with their backs to the viewer in an urban environment, one of them turning his head suddenly to call out in surprise. Engine stands in profile with a confident smirk, revealing that he overheard the entire conversation. Engine stands with blue electrical energy arcing around his body as he tells the extras to leave. A bolt of blue and white energy streaks across the night cityscape. Engine looms over Rachel, radiating blue lightning. The masked Rachel holds her pistol, aiming it up at him. Engine recoils in surprise, his handgun still raised. Engine grins menacingly while delivering a stuttered threat to kill his opponent. Engine holds a handgun as a blue electrical surge emanates from his left arm. Rachel, with a red rag covering his mouth, asks about the hostage. Engine restrains the bloodied and wide-eyed Rachel as Iwa's large shadow looms behind them. Engine smirks contemptuously, calling them trash for killing the innocent hostage. The masked man screams, thrusting his gun forward and pulling the trigger, but the weapon clicks empty. A masked figure fires a pistol, unleashing a blast of blue energy while other masked individuals stand ready in the background. The masked figure lunges forward in a blur, blood splattering across his mask as an enemy stands unfocused in the background. Iwa slides rapidly across the ground, carrying the masked Rachel who holds a gun. An unidentified man grabs Rachel from behind, pressing a gun to her clown-masked head and holding her hostage as she screams. He aims the weapon towards the glowing blue silhouette of Iwa. Rachel points his gun forward and shudders while a figure in a clown mask stands partially behind him. Hooded figures in blood-splattered suits are struck by an explosive burst of golden energy. Engine watches intently as a burst of blue energy shatters the clown-like mask attached to Iwa's hand. Rachel confirms the hostages are dealt with, now facing a group of masked men in suits aiming their firearms directly at her. Engine stands with a resolute expression, his eyes glowing blue as intense electrical energy emanates from his body while he states it is time to carry out justice. Rachel unleashes a blue energy blast that forcefully strikes Engin, who screams as the impact causes blood to spray from his body. A powerful beam of blue energy shoots horizontally, its immense speed blurring the background into streaks of light. Rachel stands on a rooftop, looking out over the sprawling city. Rachel informs Engin that his training will only be complete with a death, and the weary man sits in his chair, agreeing to the condition. Iwa turns her head to the side, her red eyes looking down and away as she speaks. Engin closes his eyes and utters a single word of resignation, "Fine." Rachel stands on the ledge of a tall building, her sneakers right at the edge as she looks down at the city street far below. Iwa free falls at high speed down the side of a skyscraper. Heroes follow a rule dictating that in a choice between saving one person versus saving many, they must always choose to save the larger group. Silhouetted figures stand on a boat holding spears as one person is cast overboard into the tumultuous water. A blindfolded statue of Lady Justice holds a set of scales and a sword against a dark background as text explains that heroes never faced consequences for the death or destruction they caused during their missions. A massive gray pillar stands covered in deep fractures. Some were no different than villains, operating within the illuminated cityscape at night. A voice states that they all wore the mask of heroes as a red cityscape blurs in the background. A luxury car speeds through the darkness, its bright headlights cutting through the night. A car screeches to a sudden stop, its front wheel locking up as the headlight glows brightly. Rachel exits a luxury car as a formally dressed Engine holds the door open for her. Engine walks confidently through a bustling, neon-lit city street at night with a woman on each arm as onlookers watch him pass. Rachel leads Engine and Iwa through a brightly lit entryway with his arms protectively around them, walking past two uniformed guards. Iwa stands in profile, looking off to the side with a pensive expression. Iwa takes a step forward into the dark, red-tinged environment as Rachel stands just behind her. Iwa stands with her back turned, looking up at a modern building with an anarchist sign under the full moon. Engine stands in a suit with a serious expression, stating that if heroes are here to clean up the evil and corrupt villains. Engine points a finger directly at Rachel's back, demanding to know whose job it is to clean up the corrupt heroes. One hand grips the other with overwhelming force, crushing the bones inside. Iwa twists her body and lunges forward, executing a sweeping attack that sends debris flying around her. Rachel points from the background as Iwa is slammed face first into the ground, shattering the pavement and kicking up debris from the impact. Iwa dashes forward at incredible speed, lunging directly toward Rachel. Iwa forcefully strikes Rachel in the back with a piece of red fabric. Engine jerks his head back with an intense expression as a red fabric is swung past him. Rachel and Iwa charge forward at high speed. Ingen looks alarmed, holding a small blade as he braces for their approach. Engine throws a forceful punch that connects with Rachel's face. Iwa swings her blunt weapon and delivers a blow to the man, who recoils from the impact. Rachel delivers a spinning kick that connects squarely with the man's face, his eyes widening in shock and his mouth falling open from the impact. Iwa launches forward in a dynamic pose, her red cape flaring as she unleashes a powerful strike. Rachel digs her fingernails into her own neck, tearing the skin and drawing blood. A blurred hand in a formal sleeve drops an object. Iwa stands confidently with glowing red eyes, holding a piece of red cloth as several defeated men lie on the ground around her. Iwa whips around, her long hair and red jacket fanning out from the sudden movement. A bright VIP door is closed in a dark hallway while an unseen person thinks it will take forever to list all the names. Iwa slumps over a table in an empty, vibrantly lit diner, stating that the many heroes she used to hate are now all dead and rotting in the ground. Engine sits on a couch with his arm around a woman and asks if she gets what he means, while Iwa sits at a table in the foreground. Iwa holds a surprised Rachel close, smiling confidently as he declares himself the lone survivor. Iwa looms over another person with a stern expression, telling them she was just starting to have some fun. Rachel slams her glowing blue fist downwards, striking a blurred red figure below. Iwa and Ingen scream in terror as a bright light envelops them. Rachel confronts Iwa with her back turned, accusing her of ruining everything while a distressed Iwa covers her face with her hands. Engine reacts with surprise and annoyance, dismissing the person as just a brat. Rachel smirks, light scratches visible on his face, and calls his opponent Jade, stating that he is not as quick as they say. Engine's eyes widen in shock as he feels a sudden sharp sensation. Engine stands with multiple forks and a knife impaled in his arm, calmly extending his other hand to display an intricate symbol on his palm. Engine's face twists with rage as he glares, clenching his tattooed hand into a fist. Iwa glares forward with intense red eyes, demanding to know if her opponent is nameless or a part of the Villain Association. Rachel's hand, wearing a skull ring and a wrist device, surges with blue electrical energy. Engine's face is enraged as he clenches his fist, unleashing glowing blue electrical energy while threatening to tear his opponent to pieces and feed them to dogs. Iwa reaches out her hand in a dimly lit, somber room. A blood-spattered hand lies motionless on the dark surface, blood pooling around it. Rachel kneels beside the bloodied body on the floor, gazing out a dark window. A wooden wheel turns slowly in the dim light, letting out a squeak. Iwa looks directly forward with a serious and focused expression, her red eyes showing her intensity. Engine sits calmly in his wheelchair in a dark space, holding a small object as he asks, "Do you want revenge?" Iwa holds up a framed photograph showing two figures and confirms that it is possible. Someone asks Iwa how she intends to find her sister's killer among the numerous heroes, and she vows to kill them all one by one. Engine stands with his back turned to the seated Rachel in the dimly lit room, his thoughts repeating over and over. Engine emanates crackling blue energy from his hands and body, facing Rachel as she speaks with her back turned. Rachel's intense eyes glow a vivid red, framed by her dark hair. Iwa dashes forward at high speed, her light hair flowing behind her with a determined look in her red eyes. Rachel swiftly swings her gleaming blade through the air. Iwa lunges forward with glowing red eyes, extending a hand that emits a powerful red energy. Iwa, wreathed in blue energy, powerfully strikes with her glowing sword, but Rachel blocks the blow with a red object. Rachel holds a small metallic object glowing with blue energy, examining it with a sharp, focused gaze. Engine strikes Rachel with a punch of glowing blue energy, and she braces herself to absorb the impact. Iwa drives her glowing blue, energy-charged fist directly into Rachel. Iwa dashes forward in a blur of motion, her red eyes glowing intensely. Rachel chokes Iwa, his ring-covered hand glowing with a powerful aura. Iwa lands a powerful, energy-infused punch directly on Rachel, the impact sending her light-colored hair flying. Iwa crashes backward from the force of the impact, debris exploding around her. Rachel slams her glowing hand onto the ground, yelling, "Simon," as Iwa lies unconscious and defeated in the rubble behind her. Rachel lies on the ground as Engine emits a wave of blue energy and asks if that is all she has. Rachel lunges forward with intense speed, carrying multiple sheathed blades. Iwa intercepts a powerful blue energy attack, the force of the clash creating a visible impact. Rachel becomes a blur of motion, snatching a red fire extinguisher. Iwa fires the red device, a blast erupting from it with radiating lines of force and speed. Rachel launches a bright blue energy attack at Engin, who raises his arms to block the blast, their powers locked in a tense confrontation. An explosion of blue and white energy bursts outwards from the point of impact. Rachel unleashes a powerful burst of energy from his blood-stained arm. Engin turns his head to the left with a stern expression as a shadowy figure looms in the darkness behind him. Engin strikes Iwa mid-air with a powerful, energy-infused attack. Rachel is suspended in the dark, cloudy sky as a glowing blue energy bolt appears beside her. Iwa assumes a fighting stance, facing her opponent as a man with a top knot watches her intensely from behind. Iwa turns rapidly, her long silver hair whipping from the movement as she looks back with an intense expression. Rachel throws a powerful high kick toward Engin, who swiftly leans back and dodges the attack. Engin drives his glowing fist into Rachel, forcing her to recoil from the impact. Rachel stands over Iwa, who is crumpled on the ground beneath her. Rachel lunges forward with an intense expression, throwing a glowing punch as he asks if his opponent is the first villain to challenge him. Rachel reels from a brutal punch to the face, her head snapping sideways as the impact sends a visible splash across her cheek. Rachel glares intensely, raising a clenched fist as he declares he beat them all to death. Rachel channels a glowing blue aura and delivers a powerful series of punches with her fists. A fist smashes into the wooden table, causing the surface to crack and splinter from the impact. Rachel gasps for breath, his face tense with exertion. Rachel clenches her bruised hand into a tight fist, a distinctive ring visible on her finger. Engin extends one hand forward, emanating blue energy, while his other hand bleeds as he says, "DII." Engin's silhouetted form radiates a powerful aura, his eyes glowing white as he points forward and issues a command to flinch. Engin stands in chains with a worried expression, looking up at a blood-stained guillotine as crows fly across the somber sky between barren trees. Engin looks down with a strained and distressed expression, his face covered in sweat. Rachel firmly grips Iwa's wrist, her hand crackling with blue lightning and wearing a ring. Iwa holds out her hand, her eyes glowing red as a symbol on her palm illuminates and crackles with electricity. Rachel crouches on the ground, staring in shock as a blur of glowing blue energy streaks past her. Iwa stands beaten and spits blood onto the ground, declaring that she now understands how her opponent's gift works. Rachel's eyes flash, glowing an intense red. Rachel tries to escape, her dress shoe sliding quickly across the dark, reflective surface as she shifts position. Iwa unleashes a blue energy blast from her outstretched hand, striking Rachel, who recoils from the impact. Rachel looks shocked and distressed as a glowing, ethereal hand appears next to his neck. Rachel looks down in confusion, her dress shoe standing in a fresh puddle of blood. Rachel clutches his bleeding left shoulder and screams, his face contorted in intense pain. Iwa watches Rachel, who stands with her back turned to her. Rachel's face twists in rage as he clenches his tattooed fist, veins bulging on his arm as he realizes he was just being toyed with. Iwa raises her left hand, her red eyes glaring forward as blue electrical energy crackles around her fist. Rachel, splattered in blood, charges forward with a furious expression as she prepares to strike. Iwa lunges forward, delivering a punch. Rachel looks up with a stern expression and asks what his opponent's strength ranking was, continuing that if all heroes are only as strong as him, then it's a problem. Rachel walks forward through the dim, spotlighted area, stating that she is going to be very disappointed. Rachel lies incapacitated on the ground, unable to move her body. Her eyes are wide with fear as she questions if she is going to die. The Great Jade places a purple glowing gloved hand on Rachel's torso and mockingly asks if this is the caress she wanted. Hooded figures restrain a shocked man within swirling purple energy, telling him that after killing many people, it is now his turn to die. Rachel is firmly gripped around the neck and body by multiple dark hands, his mind reeling in disbelief at the attack. Rachel activates his skill, Dash, and sprints away from shadowy hands reaching up from the ground as he runs toward a distant light. A blue-white light radiates outward from a central point. Engin runs forward with a strained but determined expression, telling himself there's still a chance. Rachel reaches her hand, adorned with rings and markings, towards a glowing grid of blue and pink light. Iwa presses her glowing hand against Engin's face, his eye widening in surprise. Ihua unleashes a blue energy attack that cleaves through Jade, expressing her hope that he will be reborn as a decent human being in his next life. A shadowed hand points down at a splatter of blood. Ihua stands tall and poised amidst the dark, blue-lit debris, her red eyes focused. Rachel stares forward with a wide, pained eye as blood trickles down her face, matting her dark hair against her skin. Engin lies unconscious on the shattered, blood-splattered floor next to Rachel, who is dead from a severe head wound. 2 blue wine bottles chill in an ice bucket. Rachel sits in an ornate wooden chair, his face pale and expression serious as he warns that the heroes will be going after them now. Rachel stands with her back to the viewer in the dimly lit, blue-hued room, warning that the next opponents will be much stronger than Jade and asking if they are prepared. Iwa's silver hair frames her face as her red eyes glow, staring forward with a defiant expression. Iwa holds her red-sheathed sword and declares that she is a hero killer. 2 hands firmly grip a lit lantern, casting a bright glow into the surrounding darkness. A hand firmly grips the hilt of a blood-splattered katana. Ihua stands holding a bloody knife, with the defeated bodies of Rachel and Engin on the ground around her. Iwa stands defiantly, her red eyes looking down and to the side. Yellow police tape stretches across a building's entrance, completely blocking access. Investigators in protective suits examine a bloodied body on the ground while one asks another if they have heard about Jade's successor already being chosen. Rachel expresses his shock, questioning how they could proceed so soon after the death. Engin calmly explains that things are simply moving along that quickly. Rachel, wearing a baseball cap and a hooded jacket, says she hopes they get a normal's hero this time. A heavy barrier buckles inward from a powerful blow, its surface cracking to reveal a glowing red interior. Rachel lies grievously wounded in a large pool of blood, while another figure scrambles away from the scene. A pale hand shoots out, violently seizing the dark, rippling fabric. Ihua stares at the heavily scarred man with an expression of shock and fury, demanding to know who did this to him. Engin leans in close behind Rachel, who looks apprehensive and stammers a nervous agreement. Rachel stares forward in complete disbelief, her eyes widening and her mouth falling open in shock. Rachel stands with his back turned and sighs, facing a blurred group of individuals while the injured Iwa kneels bleeding at his feet. Rachel drives his boot down onto Iwa's face, smashing it into the ground. Rachel covers her bruised face with one hand, her expression twisted in anguish as she silently vows to get revenge. Rachel turns her head and licks the blood from her own injured hand. Rachel's glowing blue eyes stare intensely from the blood-splattered darkness as her heart thumps in her chest. Iwa smirks subtly, her eyes glowing red as red and black energy splatters around her. Rachel stands with her back turned, shuddering intensely. Rachel grins widely with blood on his face, his mismatched pupils staring forward as he announces that he found her, followed by the word, chaos. A broken dark object lies on the cracked surface, which is marked by several dark splotches. Drops of a dark liquid fall and splatter onto the cracked gray surface. Rachel catches her breath, her hands splayed flat on the tiled surface. Ihua holds a low push-up position on the dusty metallic floor, her expression completely focused on her training. Rachel shifts her position, supporting her entire body on her hands in an inverted pose. The system analysis fails. A TV monitor displays a broadcast of a blurry man and woman seated opposite each other in an interview, with several water bottles placed beside the screen. Rachel sits at a table across from a man in an interview setting, with the Hero Clan logo visible on the wall. A stylized silver symbol of an upward-pointing arrow represents the Hero Clan. Most heroes are members of the Hero Clan, and they carry out orders received directly from the clan. The heroes defeated the villains in a war long ago, leading a massive crowd in celebration. After their victory, they slowly tightened their grip on power. Hundreds of years pass, revealing a futuristic metropolis at night. Large billboards illuminate the city, one displaying a cloaked hero and another showing the words Hero Clan. Rachel is displayed on a large city screen under the Hero Clan banner. A powerful blonde woman in a red cape and medals belonging to the group that once ruled the world. A showerhead sprays water downward. Rachel tilts her head back under the shower, closing her eyes as water streams down her face. Iwa stands in steam, thinking about how over a week has passed since she killed Jade. Yet the media has remained completely silent on the matter, as if it never even happened. Iwa presses her hands against a reflective surface, staring intently as she wonders if they are just afraid of showing any signs of weakness. A wet hand struggles to grip a pink cloth hanging over a metal bar, but it slips off. Ihua cries with a distraught expression, questioning if he was expendable to them just like her sister. Rachel reaches into a drawer, her hand rummaging through the firearms and various items inside. A hand holds a marker pen as another hand pulls the cap off. Rachel draws a large orange X over a photograph of Engine, stating she will start chopping off limbs so they can no longer ignore her. Iwa holds a black pen with a serious expression, her long silver hair framing her face as her red eyes glow with focus. Iwa stares at a corkboard covered with linked photos and notes, determined that they can send whoever they want. Iwa walks past a large corkboard covered with interconnected photos and notes, declaring that she is ready. A modern city skyline stands under a clear blue sky with scattered clouds. A one-story building occupies a city street corner, a prominent sign on its wall reading "Get Back." Engine stands composed behind a fully stocked bar counter. Iwa stands poised next to a clear glass door, her long gray hair and red eyes visible. An older waiter stands behind a bar, holding a plate as he speaks to Iwa. Iwa stands in an apron inside the quiet establishment, telling her unseen master that they have no customers for the day. Engine, a man with gray hair, a beard and glasses, speaks with a mild expression. Iwa and Rachel stand behind a bar holding plates inside an empty establishment. Iwa points out a single customer sitting at a table. Rachel responds with heavy sarcasm about how impressive the sight is, prompting Iwa to question her cynical tone. A man behind the bar announces he is going to check the inventory while Iwa listens intently. Rachel stands behind the bar as Iwa enters from the right, her clothes rustling as she moves. Rachel sits at a table with a cup of coffee, reading a newspaper intently with a sly expression. Iwa looks downwards, her expression stern as her red eyes narrow with intensity. Engine walks away with his back exposed while Rachel raises a rifle, aiming it directly at him. Iwa watches the confrontation from inside a nearby cafe. Rachel hangs upside down and sticks her tongue out. Rachel's wide red eyes lock forward with intense focus. A sharp blue energy projectile flies through a room lined with shelves. Iwa stabs her opponent with a knife, channeling glowing blue energy through the attack as the man screams in pain. A voice shouts from outside the slightly ajar door, pleading for someone to calm down and insisting they only came to say hi. Rachel smirks while holding a knife and tells her would-be murderer that they are kind of cute. Iwa looks forward with a serious expression, asking if the hero clan sent them. Engine watches his opponent with an intense, analytical gaze, noting to himself that she is calm but sharp and has also just used Jade's gift. Rachel brings a cup to his lips, his chin and neck covered in blood as a single drop falls from his face. A hand places a cup down on its saucer. Rachel holds a knife to a person's throat and orders them to meet her tomorrow. Iwa holds a paper as a red-haired person with a rifle walks away, demanding she come alone and not bring anyone else. An older man approaches Iwa with a concerned expression and asks what happened. Iwa avoids his gaze, subtly hiding the paper she's holding while insisting it's nothing. A crumpled piece of paper marked with Aria ID 12,000 PMs lies on a brown surface. A damaged chain-link fence blocks the path to a large, ruined building in the distance. Warning signs attached to the fence declare the location a restricted area for authorized personnel of Hero Clan H, stating the area is full of explosive mines and entry is strictly forbidden. The building entrance is destroyed, with rubble and debris scattered across the ground. A city street and its surrounding buildings are heavily damaged, with rubble scattered everywhere. Iwa trudges forward through a desolate and blurred urban setting. Iwa stands with her back to the viewer and begins to turn. Iwa stops with her back turned as the word PAUs appears. Iwa turns her head to look over her shoulder, a sniper's reticle centered directly on her face. Rachel's mouth curls into a wide, confident grin. Rachel lies on a rooftop ledge with a rifle, looking out over the desolate city as a second rifle rests beside her, and she thinks, not bad. A finger presses a button on a mechanism. Rachel fixes her gaze through the scope, firing her sniper rifle as the muzzle flashes. A glowing golden bullet streaks through the blurred cityscape. Iwa bursts forward in a blur of motion, a powerful energy aura exploding from her body. Rachel aims his sniper rifle, a spent bullet casing ejecting from the chamber. Iwa runs past a white car, smashing the side mirror with her hand as she passes. Rachel slides across the ground, coming to a stop as she leans against an outdoor air conditioning unit. Rachel adjusts a car's side mirror, using its reflection to pinpoint the building where the shot was fired. Iwa sits on the ground, watching as an object shatters in front of her while she registers the event happened approximately 2,000 yards away. Iwa crouches low, hiding behind an industrial air conditioning unit on a city street. Rachel lifts a small, intricate eyepiece. A hand in a red sleeve grasps the strap of a whip, lashing it forward. Rachel grips a dark, circular weapon, charging it with crackling blue energy. Iwa unleashes a powerful energy attack, firing a glowing orb surrounded by streaks of blue energy. Rachel stands with her back turned, holding a rifle as a large explosion erupts around her, sending debris flying in all directions. Rachel grins maniacally, her eyes wide with awe at the immense destructive power. She realizes it all came from a single steel ball and thinks of the wielder as a monster. Rachel crouches low on the street as blue lightning crackles around her body, preparing to launch forward at immense speed. Rachel leans forward with a manic grin, smoke emitting from her hand as she declares that there was no way she would miss out on this fun. Rachel drops into a crouched position, cocks her long-barreled rifle, and takes aim through the scope. Rachel scans the industrial area through her rifle's scope, searching for her target and wondering where she could be hiding. Rachel jolts in surprise at the sound of 2 explosions, tightening her grip on her rifle as she questions the source of the noise. Rachel hears more explosions erupting from the dark staircase below. Rachel walks away with a rifle slung over her shoulder, looking back with a wide smirk. Rachel dashes forward at immense speed, leaving a potent blue energy trail in his wake. Rachel aims her large shotgun at Engen as he charges toward her, his body crackling with blue energy. Rachel flashes a wide, sinister grin as she cocks her large firearm. Rachel grins as she cocks the double-barrel shotgun, aiming it directly forward. Iwa fires a blue energy blast at Rachel, who blocks the attack with a glowing shield. Rachel knocks the shotgun from Iwa's grasp, sending it spinning into the air. Rachel smirks and swings her glowing blue blade as Iwa moves rapidly in the foreground, dodging the attack. Rachel quickly reaches with her gloved hand under her jacket, grabbing for a concealed gun handle. Iwa snatches the red-haired character's wrist. Hands lock a fresh magazine into the pistol's grip and rack the slide. Iwa lunges forward to stab the red-haired person, whose weapon blocks the attack. Rachel grins smugly as she grabs an unseen target with one hand, holding a pistol steady in the other. Iwa punches her opponent directly in the face, her eyes glowing red. Rachel groans in pain, hunching over as she leans her body against a wall for support. A glowing hand firmly pats a person on the shoulder. Iwa grips her large, curved knife with both hands, her red eyes narrowed with tension in the dim light. Rachel smiles with blood on his mouth, his heterochromatic eyes looking forward as he speaks. Iwa's eyes glow red as she swings her glowing, curved dagger down with force, screaming at her enemy to go to hell. Engen delivers a powerful punch, striking Rachel and slamming her against the wall as she recoils in pain. Rachel's eye shows a swirling red pupil. 2 gloved hands with sharp metallic fingertips burst out from dark circular openings. Iwa swings her weapon in a blur, but the attack is blocked by a pair of spiked gauntlets. Engen lunges forward to strike with his mechanized arm as Iwa twists her body, swiftly evading the attack. Rachel becomes intangible as her body glows, phasing directly through the red-sleeved arm with a gift that allows her to pass through physical objects. Iwa fiercely grips the arm of another person, her red eyes glaring with intensity. Rachel, masked and cloaked in purple, moves at high speed while gripping a sword. Engen lands hard on the ground, confronting Iwa, who stands with her back turned to him. Iwa turns and delivers a powerful kick to the hooded opponent. A figure's boot grinds across the ground, sliding forcefully to a stop. Rachel adjusts the intricately designed glowing viper gloves on her hands. Iwa confronts the reddish-brown-haired person, questioning their agreement to be alone, while the other individual stands evasively and places a finger on their lips. Rachel smirks and points his finger upward, asking his opponent if they are going to use Jade's gift. Iwa lunges forward, her knuckles cracking as she states that her opponent is unable to use their power. Iwa punches intensely at the masked, red-haired figure, her eyes glowing red as she lunges forward. Iwa throws a punch at the silver-haired character, who dodges the attack. Rachel analyzes the exchange, concluding the enemy's ability has either a cooldown or a limited number of uses, and acknowledges Viper fights as well as she does, just with different methods. Rachel punches Engen across the face, the impact cracking his mask as she asks if he has anything else to show her. Iwa takes a powerful, glowing punch from an obscured figure with blood already on her mouth. Rachel clamps her gloved hand down firmly on Iwa's upper arm. Rachel's eyes widen behind her mask, showing pure shock and frantic alarm. A hand in a red sleeve presses into a dark, textured surface, sliding across it. Iwa falls rapidly downwards into a dark, swirling void. Iwa executes an evasive roll, dropping into a crouch as a blurred figure tumbles past her. Iwa leaps from a high vantage point, diving towards the blurred cityscape below. Rachel looks away in surprise while the masked Engen stands behind him, observing and realizing she only needs to physically touch someone to gain their gift. Rachel tells Iwa they don't have time to stand there, insisting they must immediately chase their target to catch her. Rachel stands in her purple hoodie and mask, raising a gloved hand to her face as she considers why she was called without the clan's knowledge, getting a bad feeling about the situation. Rachel raises a hand with a surprised and inquisitive look, asking what is meant before insisting it is nothing and that she is glad she called them over. Engine stands with a sinister grin and glowing eyes, declaring that they will continue the hunt. An empty city intersection is surrounded by buildings and construction cranes. A multi-story industrial building stands on a construction site, littered with materials and safety signs. Iwa hunches over and clutches her face, coughing violently. Iwa stares ahead with a serious expression, admitting to herself she was naive for not expecting backup. Rachel stands masked in her purple hoodie, concluding that the man is not only powerful, but that his gift is also difficult to counter. Rachel concludes the situation is not good, and swiftly draws 2 curved blades from her coat. Iwa grips her knife, her red eyes filled with determination as she vows to kill chaos first. Rachel stands wearing a dark, cage-like mask as the space around her begins to crack and shatter. Rachel rushes at high speed across the cityscape towards Engin. A window shatters, sending glass fragments scattering across the floor. Rachel submerges her arm in a dark liquid while using a tool to shatter a pane of glass. A swirling vortex distorts the center of a gray surface marked with faint vertical lines. Iwa sprints through the damaged environment, screaming chaos, as a masked figure observes her from a crouched position in the background. Rachel aims his rifle, a smirk on his face. Rachel aims his rifle forward and fires multiple shots. Iwa lunges forward, executing a swift attack that creates luminous slashes and sparks. Iwa lunges forward, executing a powerful slash that blurs her movement from the sheer force of the attack. Rachel is violently struck, red streaks of impact marking the blow. Wounded Rachel aims his rifle at Iwa as she dashes directly toward him. Rachel winces as a sword cuts into her shoulder, drawing blood from the wound. A gloved hand in a red sleeve flips open a gray access panel, needing to check what is inside. Iwa, her fist glowing with energy, violently strikes Rachel in the face, sending her reeling backwards from the impact. Rachel plummets towards the ground and smashes into the asphalt of a desolate street, her body skidding across the pavement from the violent impact. Iwa lands on her feet with a determined expression as the masked figure, Rachel, rushes aggressively at her from behind. Iwa and Engin lock eyes, preparing for their next move. Iwa grimaces in agony, her red eyes wide and scratch marks visible on her face. They still do not get it. Rachel looks through her bandaged hands at the ruined street below, where a small figure stands over a fallen body. Iwa raises her arms, questioning if she must save her even if it means clashing with the hero clan. Rachel declares that there is strength in numbers. The man's mouth curls into a smirk as he begins to speak about the girl. Engin forcefully stabs the silver-haired individual. A masked, red-haired figure lifts Iwa off the ground by her neck, holding her suspended in the air. Iwa struggles against the grip, choking and coughing as she claws at the hand around her throat. Rachel jumps into the air as Engin erupts from the ground beneath her, his body partially submerged as she dodges his upward attack. Iwa launches a kick at the back of the hooded, red-haired figure. Iwa clashes with a masked opponent, landing a strike that sends him reeling backward from the impact. Rachel extends her arm, unleashing a powerful explosion from the multi-eyed armored gauntlet. Iwa gets stabbed by her red-haired opponent's weapon, blood spilling from the wound in her side as she groans in pain but immediately throws a counterpunch. Rachel laughs maniacally, gripping a shotgun as she moves forward. Rachel and Iwa walk together down a sidewalk as Engin crouches behind a nearby lamppost, aiming a firearm directly at them. Iwa, injured and covered in blood, leaps to the right with a determined expression. One hand holds a grenade as a thumb hooks the ring and pulls the pin. Rachel peeks out from behind a building and throws a metallic, spherical object. Rachel's sphere detonates in a massive burst of red and yellow energy, and she launches herself through the air amidst the explosion. Iwa crouches defensively as Engin looms over her through a cloud of smoke, preparing to attack. Rachel connects a high kick to Iwa's face, snapping her head back from the force of the impact. Rachel collapses to the ground in a cloud of dust as the hooded Engin watches from the background. Rachel's hand, clad in a red sleeve, lies still on the ground before her fingers twitch. Rachel looks down, injured and wearing a black muzzle mask, and comments on her opponent's persistence. Rachel stands within a shimmering column of light, experiencing a vision where she sees how Jade was killed by another woman's hands. Iwa struggles against an unseen force choking her neck, her face covered in cuts and bruises. She gasps for air, her red eyes wide with strain. Engin appears directly behind Iwa, his masked face looming over her shoulder as he says, "It is a good thing they are killing her before it is too late." Rachel pivots sharply, her masked eyes glaring forward with intense focus. Rachel stands imposingly in dark, futuristic armor, a smoky aura surrounding her as she looks directly forward with a blurry city in the background. Engin lands a brutal blow on Rachel, cutting her off mid-sentence with the impact. The headless figure in the purple tracksuit drops as a heavy spray of blood erupts from its neck. Rachel collapses to the ground, lying injured and motionless. Rachel peeks from behind a larger figure, smiling as she brings a finger to her lips and asks what else they would be. Rachel discreetly peeks from behind a building, observing Ihwa on a balcony as a purple energy emanates from her. Rachel clutches her forehead in pain, her mouth open as she groans. Engine looks forward, his facial scar visible, and confidently declares that they are villains. A system reports that breathing and pulse are normal. Ihwa lies unconscious in a hospital bed, hooked up to medical monitors as an off-screen voice notes her very high bone density is a common trait for those with gifts. Ihwa lies down with her eyes open, lost in thought. Sinclair closes a cabinet door in the dim room, her gunshot wound healed and her clothes already changed. A hand reaches over a green cloth laid out with several scalpels, searching for an item while the man mutters about giving her nutritional supplements to call it a day. Engine, wearing a white lab coat and a gas mask, holds up a collection of documents and vials, having found what he was looking for. Rachel turns in the hospital room, her back to the viewer as she faces the empty bed. A gloved hand poises a scalpel over a white garment. A voice begins to give instructions on the condition for stabbing someone in the back. Ihwa stands exhausted, gripping a small knife as she confronts a man in a gas mask holding a firearm. The man tells her it's best to flatten the knife first. Rachel, wearing a gas mask, stands with her back turned and looks over her shoulder, gesturing with one hand as she warns that the attack might hit the ribcage instead. Ihwa pants heavily, looking exhausted and distressed as she points a clenched fist forward and demands to know who she is facing and where she is. Engine, wearing a lab coat and a gas mask, points a finger upward and asks about the nameless, prompting a confused voice to repeat the name. Rachel stands as a pained silhouette marked by red and white energy, facing Engin's dark, spiky form, their shared history as survivors of a great war revealed. A man in a gas mask and doctor's coat introduces himself as Vector, the doctor for the nameless, then questions why someone isn't more grateful to him for saving their life, even while admitting he didn't do much. Ihwa holds a scalpel and hesitates, her red eyes staring forward as she pauses before her action. The door handle turns sharply, releasing the lock. Rachel opens the door with a surprised expression, holding a basket of apples. Rachel smiles, her unsettling yellow eyes fixed forward as she states that Engine is looking for them. Ihwa stands opposite a masked figure in a lab coat, holding a scalpel inside a sterile room as she proposes they all go together. Footsteps sound down a long, dimly lit hallway. Ihwa calmly eats an apple as a bandaged hand touches her hair from behind, with the person remarking that she seems surprisingly at ease. Rachel smiles deviously, stating that she might have poisoned the apple as someone else takes a bite. Ihwa stands with her back turned, hiding a basket of apples. Engine states that poison does not affect him much, and Ihwa questions if that is true. Rachel confronts Ihwa and asks her what she did with the apple core as a masked figure stands silently beside them. Ihwa stares in surprise with her mouth open, her red eyes wide as she questions if she just ate it. Rachel stares forward, her yellow eyes wide with surprise as a blush spreads across her flustered face. Rachel smirks with amusement, her golden eyes glinting under her blonde pigtails. She laughs and calls them funny, revealing the band-aids on her fingers. Engine, Rachel, and Ihwa walk away down the dim hallway. Rachel opens her hand, splaying her fingers as she confirms she has recovered enough strength to use her gifts again. Ihwa looks forward with a resolute expression, concluding they are taking her to their comrades and deciding that now is the time to execute her escape plan. A pair of intense red eyes glances forward from behind strands of white hair. Engine stands in his lab coat and gas mask, a stethoscope draped around his neck, and analyzes Vector, concluding the man is not a combat soldier and can be taken down in seconds. Rachel smirks confidently, her golden eyes glowing subtly. Ihwa looks down in profile with a contemplative expression, wondering what she should do now that she is too late. Ihwa stands with her back turned and pushes open a large wooden door. A voice says, "Welcome." Rachel smiles and gestures invitingly into the rustic establishment, revealing two men inside as she welcomes them to the Nameless's hideout. Rachel stands on the upper level of a tavern, looking down at Ihwa and Engine on the floor below. Rachel smiles and gestures to her face, introducing herself as Rachel Sinclair. A man named John Nash stands brooding, his face marked by stitches and partially covered by a mask as he stares directly forward. Ihwa stands with a serious expression, presented as the leader. Engine, a man with a prominent scar across his face, holds a slight smirk. A tall modern building stands under a clear sky, designated as the Hero Clan's 17th branch. A voice yells from off-screen, accusing someone of being a knucklehead for letting Viper die. Rachel and her companion walk away down a dark, empty hallway with their backs turned. Engine bites down on his cigar and looks to the side, warning that the higher-ups invested heavily in Viper and will not easily let this go. Rachel raises her hand as she speaks, her expression urgent as she asks the branch manager if they can do something to help. Engine lights his cigar and complains about being a branch manager, saying he misses being out in the field. Rachel stands nearby with a sword on her back, looking away with a bored expression. Rachel asks Iwa who is responsible, stating the answer will be a shock. Iwa tells him to just say the name. Rachel reveals it was Engine. Rachel narrows her eyes in concentration, trying to place the name Engine from her memories. Rachel's strike connects with the man's chin, his head recoiling from the impact as his mouth hangs open. A lit cigar drops through the air, its reflection shining on the surface below. Rachel smirks confidently, touching her lower lip with a finger as she asks why. Rachel grabs his head in frustration. Engine shouts at Rachel that she is on her own, but she ignores him and walks away with her rifle. Engine stands atop a pile of red matter, overlooking the ruined cityscape with a wide, red smile on his shadowy face. Rachel's face is consumed by shadow, revealing only glowing red slits for eyes and a sharp red mark where her mouth should be. A bold announcement flashes across the screen, declaring the smiling man is back. Engine looks forward with a stern expression, his facial scars visible. He commands everyone to cut the senseless chatter. A voice asks who is going to do it. Rachel shoots her hand into the air, eagerly shouting to be chosen. Iwa rips open her red bag, revealing a large, cleaver-like knife from inside. Iwa's intense red eyes stare forward, her silver hair framing her face. Rachel charges forward, wielding a large, cleaver-like weapon. Engine moves in a blur and strikes Iwa, the force of his attack throwing her off balance. Rachel laughs wildly while swinging her staff, deflecting rapid attacks from a blurry figure speeding past her. A red-sleeved arm moves to block a brown staff wielded by a white-sleeved arm. Rachel slams a punch into Iwa's face, the impact snapping her head to the side. He digs his heel into the ground, skidding to a halt. Iwa delivers a kick to the side of the white-haired man's head, but he remains completely unfazed by the powerful blow. Iwa throws a punch, connecting with the face of Engin in his red hooded garment. Rachel punches Iwa, throwing her back into the crumbling wall. Iwa extends a clenched fist forward, her red eyes glowing as she commands her opponent to halt and lets out a faint laugh. Rachel sits on the ground with a bloody nose and an unsettling smile. She extends her open hand, saying, "You beat me." Iwa gazes forward with a resolute expression, her red eyes fixed on what lies ahead. Rachel shakes hands with Engin, who wears a lab coat and a gas mask. Rachel faces forward, the lenses of her gas mask reflecting the blurry image of Iwa in a red coat. Engin, dressed in a lab coat and gas mask, claps his hands together, authoritatively stopping the hazing and questioning the group's name, the Nameless. Iwa stands with a serious expression, questioning why she was saved. Engin stands with his back turned to Rachel inside a rustic room, his long silver hair visible. Rachel confronts him, demanding to know what he is trying to accomplish. Engin turns to face forward, a prominent scar visible across his serious face, and he declares that their purpose is to defeat the hero clan. Rachel's intense red eyes widen in shock as she learns about the clan that killed her sister. A voice stammers in shock, unable to comprehend the situation. Iwa takes a confrontational stance, her red eyes glowing as blue electricity crackles around her body while she demands to know how they have that information. An old stone building with a bell tower stands under a full moon, surrounded by dark trees and ground mist as the sound of heavy trudging approaches. A person in formal shoes stands on a wooden floor as a voice yells, "Stop." An unknown voice speaks to Engin, stating it has been a while. Engin stands in the dim light, a confident smirk on his scarred face as he looks forward, saying it has been a while. Rachel sits in her wheelchair on a dimly lit patio, her back turned, positioned beside a small table holding a candelabra. Engin holds a cylindrical device, sliding it open to reveal Rachel's reflection on its surface. A single candle flickers, dripping hot wax down the side of a candlestick. Iwa stands in a dimly lit hall, speaking to Rachel, who sits in a wheelchair among rows of benches, and she finishes her sentence by asking what would happen if she said she wasn't. Engin, dressed in aristocratic attire, keeps his eyes closed as he speaks, proposing that there is someone he was hoping they would help. Engin looks down with a smug, confident expression, asking if someone has finally warmed up to the dog they have been training. Engin sits in his wheelchair, confronting Rachel, who keeps her back turned. He tells her she has grown more arrogant since they last saw each other. Engin sits in a wooden wheelchair, dressed formally, and taps his hand on the armrest with the hilt of a sword visible behind him. Rachel's shadowy figure stares directly forward, her eyes glowing in intense red as she asks in a commanding tone if they are ready to talk now. A hand firmly grips an armrest. Engin sits calmly on a park bench at night, a scar visible on his cheek, and states he will listen for now. Iwa sits atop a skyscraper overlooking the city at twilight, now called the Hero Killer. Iwa ducks under a shadowy figure's attack and counters with a swift strike, pivoting immediately to engage the next opponent without hesitation. Iwa holds a small blade with a serious expression, her red eyes staring intently forward. However, Iwa stands as a dark silhouette with long hair, her body completely enveloped in glowing red lines of energy against a crimson background. Iwa lies motionless and face down in a large pool of her own blood. A large arched window in a stone wall reflects the faint shapes of trees as small glowing specks drift in the air. Engine sits on a wooden bench in a dimly lit area, smirking as he says they are asking him to take care of a tiger cub. A stern man with long gray hair and dark formal attire sits in a wheelchair, giving Engine his objective to destroy the hero clan. Engine sits with his back turned to a slumping figure, speaking to them in a dimly lit room. He states they will inevitably have to face that girl because they were both in the war. Two katanas rest on a rack beside him as the other person hunches over in distress. Rachel clasps her hands with a subtle smirk, warning that it doesn't matter if all the heroes are eliminated because a certain woman will be the cause of their demise if they cannot do something about her. Events unfold. Engine covers his face with one hand, his eye wide with shock as he questions if the hero killer can reach her level. A heavily melted candle's flame flickers precariously in a dimly lit room. Maybe someday. Engine stands with a subtle smirk on his scarred face, adjusting his collar as he speaks. Rachel sits elegantly in a wooden chair, her face completely obscured by shadow as she asks if something is broken. Engine stands with his back to the viewer, wearing a long brown coat as he faces a large arched window in a dimly lit room and states that he has taught her everything he knows. Engin forms a subtle, knowing smile and warns them not to get destroyed by her. Wooden framed windows reflect the soft, cloudy sky of early dawn. Iwa emanates blue electricity as she confronts Engin and another figure, while Rachel watches from the foreground. Engin stands with a scar across his face, looking down with a challenging expression as he asks the hero killer if she actually intends to find the culprit who murdered her family. Rachel smiles while holding a small flower near the gas-masked head of a man in a lab coat, asking if he just wants to die fighting like this. Iwa's red eyes glow as blue energy surrounds her, and she repeats her question, demanding to know how her opponent knows about her sister. An unseen speaker issues a threat, guessing their opponent wants to die. Engine unleashes a glowing energy attack toward Rachel, who braces herself for the incoming blast. Iwa's eyes widen in surprise as a blue blur speeds towards her, energy crackling around her arm as she reacts. Iwa stares forward, her eyes glowing an intense, vibrant red as her gaze becomes piercing. A man surrounded by dark energy lunges forward, confronting a wary Iwa who stands her ground. Rachel looks intently to the side with a serious expression, speaking the name John. Engine's scarred face hardens as he clenches his fist, dark energy emanating from his arm. Iwa looks to the side with a focused, serious expression, her red eyes observing the mess. Four figures stand together against a dark red background. Rachel smiles in the center with her hair in pigtails, flanked by two masked and hooded individuals at the edges. An observer questions how this group of misfits, who call themselves the Nameless, is maintained. Engine stares forward, his eyes glowing intensely behind his stitched mask as a dark aura swirls around him. He threatens that he will not go easy next time. A person in a lab coat and gas mask throws their hands up and screams while Iwa watches from the background. Rachel smiles widely with blushing cheeks while holding a crumpled tissue, asking Vector what's wrong and telling him to let them have their fun. Engine, wearing a gas mask, attempts to de-escalate the situation while Rachel stands behind him, agitated with her hands raised, screaming about how she cannot stay calm. Engine shouts to stop the hostilities and observes that they are not getting an answer. Iwa gazes forward with intense red eyes, contemplating the task she believes they need her for. A golden queen and rook hold key positions on a chessboard. A golden king and pawn face a dark queen and pawn on a chessboard. Engine raises his hands to call for a pause, declaring that he thinks he knows what they want from him. Iwa looks intently to her side, confirming the terms of the deal being offered to her, the answers she wants in exchange for her strength. Engine lowers his gaze, his scarred face in profile, and calls the other person sharp. Rachel blushes with a shy smile and says she will accept. Iwa leans forward and asks what exactly they are planning while Rachel smiles subtly in the background. Engine, wearing a doctor's coat and a gas mask, begins to speak of annihilation. Engine, wearing a gas mask and a white coat, speaks and identifies his group as the 17th Division of the Hero Clan. The sun sets through a large window, casting a warm light across a quiet, empty room. Iwa looks to the side with an expression of strong disbelief. Engine looks up with a wary expression, questioning what was just said. Engine's scarred face breaks into a confident smirk as he reveals there are 5 of them. A vast, rocky desert stretches out under a cloudy sky, the distant mountains and rock formations blurred on the horizon. A desolate, rocky desert stretches out under a cloudy, overcast sky. Iwa holds her open planner with a concerned expression, explaining that they are fully booked for the next 2 weeks with villain suppression and a subsequent PR shoot. Rachel stammers an apology while holding a notepad. Iwa, partially visible in her red and black suit, calls the performance dreadful and asks what Rachel is apologizing for. Rachel, wearing a red cloak, looks to the side with a slight smirk and yellow eyes, telling Victoria that it is not her fault. Rachel, wearing her decorated uniform with medals on the chest, states that it's not easy being the poster child of the hero clan. Iwa looks up from her notepad with a startled expression as the barren ground beneath her begins to rumble violently. Rachel hears a rumbling in the distance and smirks. She gives a confident wink, sensing the approach. The ground trembles across the barren, rocky landscape under a gray sky. An armored car speeds forward as a silhouetted figure rises from its roof behind a large weapon. Engine stands on a spiked structure, holding a flaming torch high as he shouts an aggressive command to his men. Engine shouts aggressively while aiming his large, fiery cannon as an armed crowd stands behind him. Iwa stands alone on the horizon, wearing a red cape as a man in an approaching vehicle spots her and his companion orders the driver to run her over. Rachel stands in her military uniform against a desolate, cloudy landscape, her yellow eyes looking forward as she calls it a beautiful dream. Dark storm clouds gather and rumble in the sky above distant structures. A golden beam of energy erupts from the dark sky, striking the ground and causing a violent impact that sends debris flying. Iwa, in her military uniform, questions Rachel about any reporters or cameras in the vicinity. Rachel, holding a glowing blue object, confirms to her that the area is clear. Rachel performs a powerful, sweeping sword attack, creating a visible gust of wind. Rachel smirks confidently while holding a golden weapon, her eyes glowing with intensity as she declares she no longer needs to hold back. A red and yellow blur shoots forward in a high-speed attack. Rachel lunges forward in a blur of motion, her yellow eyes glowing intensely. Iwa sprints across the desolate landscape, wielding her golden staff. Rachel sprints across the desolate plain at high speed, her red cloak and blonde hair blurring as she races toward a distant city. A blinding flash of light erupts from a central point, completely obscuring the landscape from view. The sun shines through a break in the clouds, casting rays across the sky. Rachel stands confidently under the sky, holding her large, ornate staff. She thinks to herself that she will need a drink once everything is over. The location is the 17th Division,